A lot of the people we talk to can't even get data. Even the sports teams we talk to, you ask them like, who are your fans and like who's buying tickets? They don't know.
Started talking to clubs and were shocked. Basically, that category with the most loyal consumer, not just a consumer, but a fan, didn't have a loyalty technology solution that really, targeted them 24/7, 365.
Sports teams know how to sell attention and eyeballs. That's what they do. You come in the stadium, you look. People watch their games, they look. That's what they monetize. Sometimes it's we don't even know there's other ways to monetize our product issue. Like we didn't even know this existed.
The 3 years till, everybody knows about this or everybody is participating, and the 5 to 7 when these digital products are actually eclipsing traditional legacy media products in terms of value.
Hello, and welcome to The Speakeasy, the podcast of Seg3. We're talking to innovators working at the intersection of sports, entertainment, gaming, and technology, the people who are shaping the culture of today and the culture of tomorrow. My name is Jay Stewart. I'm very pleased to be here in Los Angeles with my co-host, Jackie Brasky, and joining us is Dominic Carbonaro, who is the Director of Consumer Enterprise at Ava Labs. Thank you for joining us, Dominic.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Great. Let's start with a bit of an intro into Ava Labs and what it is that you do for people who are not familiar with it, and take us through the basic background of what the company is about.
Okay. So we are at Ava Labs, it's still a debated topic if it's Ava or Ava. We are the entity that represents the Avalanche blockchain. So Avalanche is a layer 1 blockchain. You've probably heard of them, or competitors to them, things like Ethereum, Solana, Sui, Polygon, Avalanche. These are all layer 1 blockchains. We're unique in our architecture. I like to tell people who are a little confused about what's a layer 1 blockchain? There's really 3 buckets in what I would call approaches to scaling from the layer 1. So you have Solana, Sui, which are layer 1s that scale at the one chain level. So we're going to put everything into one chain, and that's how we're going to scale it. Monolithic is the term we use. And then you have the Ethereum ecosystem, which is built upon rollups. So there's the base layer Ethereum, and then there's rollups that are built on top of that. They confirm down to the base layer. And then there's Avalanche, which is horizontal scaling. So we have our main chain, the primary chain called the C chain, and then we have layer 1s that are attached that use the network. So we're more in the horizontal scaling bucket. I like to say we really don't know, in my opinion, how blockchains are going to scale yet. They might scale on one chain, they might scale with rollups, they might scale horizontally, but everyone's kind of taken a different approach to try to address the problem. And we've put our chips in that basket of we're a horizontal blockchain.
So what's the benefits of horizontal blockchain?
Well, it's just, they all kind of have their pros and cons. Horizontal blockchains are just, they're more of a different approach in terms of how people prefer to build. So we're betting more on that. Builders want to own their own stack. They want to own their chain. They want to be able to customize their own gas token. It's just I would say they're more builder friendly in my opinion. Whereas layer 2s or things that have a layer 2 ecosystem or Solana or Sui on the monolithic side, it's really you got to do what they say. You can't have your own custom gas token for your own chain. You're not going to be able to own your own stack in terms of who's allowed to deploy assets there. So if you're building your own chain, you can say either you're not, or you are allowed or you're not allowed. So it's permission versus permissionless. So it's more of just the approach for how we think the market's going to progress and want to build.
So sorry, but it would seem to me that horizontal idea is more in line with the thesis of what blockchain ultimately should be about, which is about ownership, correct?
I would say so. Our founder's been doing this for a very long time. So I think he took very much of a builder's first approach in saying that people who build their own chain are going to want to have total control, whether that's for regulatory reasons. So maybe you want to deploy a chain that allows certain types of KYC funds, and you want to make sure the only people that can interact with those funds are people who are KYC to comply with certain types of anti-money laundering things that the government puts out, or whatever variety of regulation that, the government's going to put out. We started very much with a finance focus. So that was around if a bank wants to deploy its own chain, how can they do that in a way that's regulatory friendly? It's much more own your own stack approach, I would say, than you got to deploy here, and your assets, when they're deployed on a Solana or a Sui, you're deployed with everyone else's assets. So if some random person creates some random thing, your assets are on that chain for better or for worse. So there are some, like, I would say, branding risks or just like some hesitancy from people who are like, I don't know if I want to put my bank's assets on a chain with a certain type of meme coin. Like, I don't even know if I want that there, right? So it's just really a builder approach, I would say.
Now, what about Ava Labs or Ava Labs? Where do you fit into that picture?
So we are the entity that represents the chain. So the Avalanche blockchain has a foundation, and then we are a contractor of that foundation. So we have products that we launch within the ecosystem. So we have a wallet, core wallet. We have Ava Cloud, which is, you can think of it like a managed service provider for L1s. So just like how in Amazon, you can one-click deploy, an instance and Amazon will manage the infrastructure. If you want to one-click deploy a layer 1 blockchain, Ava Labs will do that for you and manage it. So that's another product we have. We have the business development team that I sit on. So that's, pushing partnerships for the chain, getting people to work with us. And then we have obviously like legal finance and the actual team that builds the underlying infrastructure and tech for the blockchain.
So when you say consumer, the consumer enterprise, why is it called consumer?
Yeah. So the consumer enterprise vertical, you can think of it as anytime an enterprise is building applications that touch like large scale consumer use cases that are not financialized, that's what my vertical owns. So like a good example of this would be, if you've ever seen the show Love Island, you know how Love Island has the voting app where you download the app, you can vote for your characters. That would be like a consumer app, not like a financialized neobank Robinhood style app, right? So myself and Jake sit on that side of the stack.
Nice. So it's partnerships essentially, but more so, non-financial based.
Yeah, non-financialized. We have a whole nother team that does like crypto native financial stuff as well as like institutional banking type stuff.
And then what kind of companies are you guys working with?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it might make sense to talk about our strategy and how we got to like selecting our partners for this. So I think what we noticed early on was blockchain and crypto, whatever Web3, whatever word you want to use now, was building a lot of nice to haves, or like, that's cool, I would say. Like, we're going to build this NFT app that lets you memorialize your time at the event, and we'll give you a token that shows that. And it's really cool. Well, like that's cool. Doesn't really drive business decision makers to actually adopt things, right? We were looking for businesses that did one of three things. Either they created new revenue streams without cannibalizing existing ones, reduced bottom lines, or made things more efficient. So processes that would take, 60, 90 days, now down to 1 or 2 days, or 3, generated new revenue streams that they could use for decision-making processes or informing LLMs. We're seeing more of a push towards that. Unique data is the differentiator for LLMs. And so with that, we started going out and saying, okay, what are applications that are building in the general crypto space that are addressing these things? And they have to make sure that blockchain is an integral part of that, right? So it can't be like, well, we could do that, but like we're just adding in blockchain just to have it. It has to be like, it's not possible to generate new revenue without blockchain. And so the verticals we found for that were identity-based products. So things like being able to understand who your fans are, where they are, what they do. Things like ticketing and on-chain loyalty. So those were the kind of the 3 big verticals we saw demand for early on in sports that were actual needle movers for decision makers within sports organizations.
So basically, when it comes to the discussions that you have, you go with the perspective of, obviously, as a blockchain company, but I understand that ultimately now people don't really care whether it's blockchain or Web3 or whatever it is. It's what it does.
Yeah.
Because the consumer, the end user is not going to know. And it's just a question of whether it's the efficiency or whether it's able to do the things that you were talking about. So what do those conversations look like?
So I would say, there probably is 2 approaches. So one with, let's say for the organizations, right? You're right. A lot of them do not, I would say, want the user to have to go through this really extenuous process of like, you need to create a wallet. And then once your wallet's created, you got to save the 18 words so no one ever figures it out. And if you lose those words, you lose your money. Like, this is way too much friction. People are used to clicking a button and then logging in with their Google ID, and that's it. And that's the user flow. That's not going to change. So the term for that in our space is called account abstraction. So how do you abstract away the blockchain so it just feels like a Web2 app, right? That's always kind of top and center for any organization we talk to. They want it to just feel like a traditional app, but they want the benefits of the blockchain for their organization and for the users without the users necessarily having to go through all these loops and processes.
Can I ask a question before you go on? Is this something that's happened with technological development, or was that possibility always there, that account abstraction?
Oh, this has been like a lot of resources have been poured into this at the application layer as well as the networking layer to make account abstraction possible. A company like Privy, who does account abstracted wallets, so it just feels like a login. They just sold to Stripe, I think, for like $1 billion. So it's been a huge push for people to build these things out. And then as they've shown their worth, they're now starting to even get acquired and rolled up to other businesses. So yeah, it was a huge push from developers to get this kind of feeling for users.
So you were saying the account abstraction was one thing that these companies wanted, automatically, and then what else were looking for? They wanted the benefits of blockchain. Did they understand the benefits, or do they understand the benefits?
It's a good question. I think it comes down to like, what are some of what are some of the barriers or hurdles to winning business? I'd say education is a huge one. Most people, when they hear crypto, they think Bitcoin. It's like the first thing they think about. And then if they're past that or they've worked with it, then they think like FTX or Luna. So there's some definite scarring, and especially
or meme coin.
Or meme coin, especially in sports. So I think there is not as much education in terms of how do these things benefit your business or how do these things benefit users. There is a lot that goes into that and having to explain those benefits. But it is a fruitful conversation. And sometimes it even has to start with, hey, we're just going to do this one really small thing. Like, I know where I'm going to take you in 3 or 4 years. Like, you might not be ready for that, but we're going to start just this one simple thing, and we'll add on to it and eventually get there.
When you're talking to these companies, what do you find that, once you kind of walk them off the ledge of fear, what sort of resonates with them on, being like, okay, this does make sense?
Yeah. So I think a good example, and most people get, is this concept of like loaded value. So if we think about like Starbucks app, you use a Starbucks app?
I don't like Starbucks. But yes, I'm familiar with that.
You're familiar with the app.
Yeah. Coffee tastes burnt.
You preload value into the Starbucks app. You spend, you generate stars, right? That preloaded value is a huge business line item for Starbucks, right? It's like $2 billion plus they have just sitting in that app. They generate yield from it. There's teams dedicated towards building this out. For sports teams, I think you can take the approach of a preloaded value approach, but instead of using dollars, you can use stable coins, which are a much more efficient form of money. So things where you need 100 plus teams to manage it, you can actually just make that preloaded value as stable coins, which then generates yields for the business. And then you can also capture like actual fan loyalty, which I think is really underexposed in sports. So just like people load their Starbucks app or use their Flymile Delta cards, they can use those styles of apps for sports teams, and then redeem the points for in-stadium experiences, merchandise, whatever it may be. But it's the same type of preloaded value loyalty process that already exists for businesses, where we're just applying that to sports teams.
So then why blockchain? By the way, I spent many years working with music and Web3. So these are all, I've been through the struggle of all these questions and the ups and downs of the industry. But, that was always my problem, is like when it was hot, everyone wanted to do it. And then once you got past that, I was like, well, why do I need blockchain for this? Or we would always have to hide it behind the scenes.
Yeah. So I would say one, if you're going to take on the preloaded loyalty approach, which we'll have John come and talk about here in a few, stablecoins are just a better form of money than cash. So it's just more efficient for a business to use them. That's the first thing. The second thing, which you can get to.
Can you explain why?
Why?
I'm getting too complicated. Yeah. Why is it more efficient?
Okay. So one, if you're any type of entity, like we'll just take a step back and let's just speak on like, why would a business use stablecoins over cash in general? Okay. Let's say you're a company like FedEx. Okay. FedEx has to have several different entities set up in different parts of the world, right? They might have a South Korean entity, they might have an Indian entity, they have an English entity, and they do that specifically because if, let's say, the U.S. comes in and sanctions a country one day, they just close that entity, right? And that they don't have to deal with shutting down the entire business. With that, money has to move cross borders. It's extremely painful and it costs a lot of money. Stablecoins allowed for very, very fluid cross-border payments. So that's like just one example of why, stablecoins are just a better form of money for enterprises. The second one being certain types of stablecoins. If you want to do a pre-value loaded program, right? The big benefit of that is a lot of these companies take those dollars and they manage them. They put them in, certain types of short-term interest accounts, buying short-term bonds, whatever it may be. That's a process. It's hard for a business to do. You have to have a team for that. I believe Starbucks' team is like 100 or 150 people that just manages the finance side. There's stablecoins that exist that will automate that for you, and they pass back the yield. The stablecoin business takes a piece of it, but if they're saying, hey, we're making 4.5% on your deposits, we're going to keep 1%, you're going to get 3.5%, and now you don't have to hire any of a team to manage it. It's an easy way for you to start to generate yield on preloaded accounts, as opposed to having to scale up an entire team to do it. So, cross-border remittances, the ease of use to spin up, yield-bearing accounts. There's a few others, but I'd say those are probably the two primary ones that are pretty easy for people to understand.
What about the idea of owning data? I mean, isn't this one of the main selling points of Web3 and a blockchain? Is the idea that that data does not go on a platform that's a third party that's controlled by someone else or one of the big platforms. You have control over it yourself. Is this relevant to the rights owners or to the people that you're talking to?
I would say a lot of the people we talk to can't even get data. So like a lot of this, like even the sports teams we talk to, you ask them like, who are your fans and like who's buying tickets? They don't know.
They don't know.
Ticketmaster owns that data.
Yep.
Right.
Again, the
Exactly.
same in music, we have that same
Exactly.
problem.
Like who are your fans and what are they buying?
Exactly.
And where do they live? And who are they? So I would say the first problem is, can they even get data on their users? The question to that's usually no. So the concept of a wallet, right, inside of an app, that's a person, right? And so you can start to see who that person is. If you have programs where you link cards, you can actually start to see, where do they shop? Do they shop at partners you work with, right? And so once you have those apps, you can, when that data is on chain, there's opportunities for you to then let people come in and use that data. And it's not as hard to share because they can just access it via the chain as long as you create the permissions for it. That's called interoperability, right? So it's a big concept we have. So the data is not as walled gardened, but if you want to, you can open it up, which I think lends really well to loyalty, right? So if you're really great friends with the New York Mets, and in return, a local business wants to tap into that, you can very easily access that.
So basically for teams, for example, as sports franchises, for example, this is a way for them kind of to even begin their data journey and to start to know who their fans are and know who is at the game. Classic thing being, you have 20,000 people in an arena. You don't even know anything. You don't even know who's there.
Yeah. And you can also start to see what they do outside of your fan experience, which is important to them.
Well, that's a very good time for us to bring in our next guest. Thank you for joining us. And you're joining us from Miami, I believe. You guys actually got to see the MLS Cup final, which must have been fun.
Really fun, yeah.
Part of the joy of working in sports.
That's right.
So tell us about UpTop and how it fits in with what we've been hearing about before. It's how blockchain is changing what sports can do and building their loyalty possibilities.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks for having me. It's really good to be here for the conference, and we're excited for all the wonderful programming ahead. I think Dominic broke down the sort of division of responsibilities pretty well. They're an infrastructure provider, and we're an app. We're a company that builds a product that then interfaces with end consumers. So I started this company after leaving PayPal, where we would analyze millions of data points on every single consumer and really try and engage them and retarget them and understand the inflection points of a consumer journey from a data perspective. And so we launched a bunch of different products there, consumer P2P payments, crypto support in the PayPal and Venmo apps, and ultimately the PYUSD stablecoin, which came out after I left the company. Was kind of the beginnings of a consumer company getting into this space with such a degree of scale. And I had the thesis that a lot of brands would benefit from this kind of technology. So we set out at UpTop to build essentially what we call a wallet in a box, a solution that we can give to any consumer company that has the benefits of all of these fintech products, that has the benefits of, call it a Starbucks loyalty app, without incurring the operational complexities, the financial complexities, the multi-jurisdictional complexities that Dom spoke about, and can just be programmed and customized for their exact use case. We have worked across verticals, but as of late, our biggest vertical with the most traction is professional sports. This was actually a category that had been neglected by technology providers for a very long time. Teams didn't necessarily have the resources internally to build full-fledged loyalty programs that have all of these consumer financial primitives embedded in the solution. So we started pitching this idea in the professional sports vertical. We had recently hired someone from a sports partnership background who had launched a lot of NFT and token-based activations with different professional teams. And we started talking to clubs and were shocked, basically, that a category with the most loyal consumer, not just a consumer, but a fan, didn't have a loyalty technology solution that really, targeted them 24/7, 365 as they went about their life. And at that time, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the NBA were actually RFPing this category. They were talking to all of the vendors in the space, and we didn't even have a product in market, but they went with us because of the sort of forward-thinking strategy that we had been presenting and talking about in our initial pitches. So that was at the start of last NBA season. So we're in our second season with them, and have added a few clubs this year.
Nice. I always say, working in music, and when I have friends or colleagues who work in sports, we're always jealous of each other because of the different complexities of rights holders that we have. Have you found that the teams, do they need the NBA's approval? Like, what is the process of onboarding these different teams, and do you need the league approval? And is it sport by sport basis? What's sort of the onboarding process been like?
Yeah, it can
He's
be.
laughing.
It can be league dependent. In the case of the NBA, the league does sign off in most cases. So we're now live with both the Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Are the Lakers next? No, joking.
We're growing. Let's just say we're growing.
I mentioned them before. I'm born and raised LA, so I love my Lakers and Dodgers.
I mean, they've done such amazing things. Both teams, actually, from a consumer kind of products standpoint. Obviously, very exciting IPs for anyone in the space. And we're going to be growing our footprint in the league. But the question, remind me the actual question.
I'm saying, is it, each sport, is it really hard? We all know basketball and NBA. They've always been, I would say they're pretty innovative, obviously, with
Right,
NBA
it's about
Pop
their
Shop.
rights. Yeah. So
have you found that, you've been leaning basketball, or what other sports, how's sort of the process been with the leagues and teams?
yeah, we have a foothold in the NBA for sure. This is a rights-based market, right? So in some cases, we're licensing IP. It depends on the exact implementation that the team wants to go with. In other cases, we've had some conversations in leagues where everything is centrally managed by the league. They, participate in every single consumer use case. And then we've had some conversations internationally where the franchise model isn't as present in sports, and we're directly just interfacing with the club, and they are the ultimate rights holder. In some cases, they're also working with third-party agencies managing these relationships. So it really varies. We just have to make sure that we have the people internally and the expertise to handle these kind of complex rights deals.
So let me take a step back. So you were saying there's an IP and you're licensing the IP.
In some cases, yeah.
In some cases,
yeah.
Because you know how to basically do what it is that needs to be done, because the teams don't normally have the internal team to do that. Is that
so
mainly what it is?
It runs the gamut. Like right now, we're in the NBA with the Cavs and the Pistons. We're launching LSU in a question of a couple weeks here across all sports. And so some teams, they do have an internal function just focused on loyalty or product, and they're just using our technology stack. Others don't really know where to begin. So our approach with them is more a traditional rights deal.
It's remarkable how I'm going to use the word backward. How behind sports is in this world. Maybe because they have not had a chance to develop the internal resources, and they haven't had the bandwidth internally to be able to focus on innovation because they've been too busy just doing what it is that they do. So, have you found that this is generally true across sports, and that you have these? Is it kind of an open door that you're pushing against?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's some really innovative products that have come out. You mentioned Top Shot in its moment when, collector mania was really reflected in the digital asset space. You could really innovate across this high speed, high consumer velocity product cycle. And in sports generally, I think resourcing is the biggest constraint. So it usually does take a third party who can really understand the business and can work closely with the stakeholders in partnership to push the boundaries of what's possible. The teams at the end of the day, they have to spend most of their time and focus on their core product, which is fielding a great viewer experience and fielding a great team that people want to watch. The product is ultimately the sports team. So that's why you see major investment in player contracts and trading for athletes and getting the right coaches involved. And a lot of other things are third party managed. It's rare, but it exists. I believe in LA in some cases, in some of the teams they do it, but most teams don't even handle their own concessions, right? That's usually operated by a Levy or an Aramark. So this is similar. And so we consider ourselves a fintech company and a media participant as well.
So from a fan's point of view, and we can join it up with the team and the fan, what is the experience? What is it that they get as a user of the app?
Yeah, Dom, I believe you wanted to chime in with something.
I was going to add something on the previous point.
Okay.
You mentioned resourcing. A good example is if you've ever seen Yankee Stadium, there's a sign in right field that says WB Mason. It's on the wall. WB Mason sponsors it. That sign's been there since my dad's been a kid, when he was going to games in the 60s. Sports teams know how to sell attention and eyeballs. That's what they do. You come in the stadium, you look. People watch their games, they look. That's what they monetize. Airlines did this too. They knew how to sell flights, right? I think Delta did $2 billion last quarter to American Express in points. That didn't exist 15, 20, 30 years ago, or whenever they started that. But those industries eventually evolve, and they just stop selling their core product. I think sports are at an inflection point with that. You can only sell eyeballs and attention so much. You have to look at other ways in which you want to drive your business forward. So it's like when we talked about, like, is it a staffing issue? Sometimes it's we don't even know there's other ways to monetize our product issue. Like we didn't even know this existed. And when you talked about the core product experience, for me, when I've used it, I'll go back to this Love Island point, because I harp on it, because I watched my wife force me to download that app and vote. And I thought to myself, what's something I would actually download and use as a male consumer? Like, what's an app I'm not going to ever vote on Love Island, but like, what's something I would actually download and use? The concept of like a sports app where I could participate interactively, get points for spending or doing things, redeem those for experiences. Like, that's something I would actually do as a consumer of a team. And so I think that, it's his thesis too. That market is hugely untapped because, fans spend. I buy a Jets jersey every year, even though the player's not going to be on the team next year. Yeah, it's the case. I bought 4 jerseys and they all keep leaving, but I'm loyal to the team and I'll keep consuming. Unfortunately, I got the curse of a Jets fan, but
that's a great segue into the product, right? And what we're unlocking. But yeah, the airline example is pretty much table stakes in the industry now, but it was developed over time to monetize a new revenue stream, which is essentially the issuance of miles. So in the case of the professional teams we're working with, we're essentially issuing points. And so we can financialize the loyalty program of the team and make it a revenue generating asset. And we do that by selling points to third-party sponsors of the team. It's basically a new rate card asset. That's all it is. They buy those points to market to the consumer, and they do that by distributing them in a transaction-based rewards program.
So you can get your points at the supermarket and your credit card points.
Yeah, you can double
it's like,
dip.
why
wouldn't you do it? Right?
Exactly.
And it's the same reason you wouldn't forget to put your your airline identifier number when you buy a Delta ticket, right? And that's the start of the journey. And then inside of that, of course, so this is a revenue generating asset. It's growing season over season. I believe fundamentally that these attribution based digital first assets are going to eventually eclipse impression media assets, right? Because you can actually see that the consumer went to that business. And you alluded to this before, folks are asking for attribution, right? Everybody knows that sports marketing works. There's always a question of, which parts work really well and which parts, may just be brand affiliation based. Our asset is all around, active participation and real attribution. So we're getting sponsors these conversion-based assets that they can now purchase. So that's kind of the baseline. Once you're in a points-based system, there's a lot of really great features you can, add, right? That keep attention, that keep eyeballs on the product. And so we're doing things like points rewards for predictions. You could predict, the over-under of the next game, or the spread, right? So it's keeping you engaged in a non-cash wager format that is giving you some skin in the game, some participation without financial damage, only upside.
And
so
legal
those are
in
the kinds
California. We don't have sports gambling here.
Correct. So we could probably do it for the Lakers one day. Yeah.
So for the consumer, for the fan, they build up points, correct? So they get points, and then they can use those points to anticipate.
Yeah, in the ecosystem of the team, right? So this is things like merchandise, ticketing, experiences, money can't buy things, meet and greets with the players. We've distributed courtside seats twice per team in a season. We've done fully expenses paid away game trips for top participants as well. And we can afford to do that through the program and still have a profitable unit economic model because of sponsor participation. So what you see with rewards programs often is like, people will make a splash in year one, like, look at all these great things that you can get. But then if they're not actually monetizing the program and creating revenue streams, year two is all about scaling back and how do we reduce the amount of rewards that we can distribute through this program. We actually grow year over year, right? We have more users and then we have more sponsors. So we can actually our network coverage gets bigger and we can, build some really, really exciting hooks on the reward redemption side for
now,
the
on
fans.
the data, jumping to the data issue, just so it's clear. So that data, that fan data, is the club's data that they can
correct
that they can archive, they can hold, they can continue to use.
That's right. Yeah, and you did ask a why Web3 question to Dom before, and so we have an IP rights holder first strategy. All that data is theirs. But with our infrastructure, the fan graph, the actual nodes, the people that are participating that they may want to reach, long after we're ever in partnership with a team, if we left, they could still access the consumer wallet and continue their program without a hitch. And that is actually fundamentally something you could only really do with on-chain ledgering infrastructure.
And the stablecoin option,
for payments, yes. Yeah. So actually next year we'll be introducing our first stablecoin supporting programs and powering payments experiences for fans as well. The costs, you mentioned all the complexities of offering a loaded value wallet. The cost is also there as well. So it's really interesting if you look at sort of loyalty programs today and just kind of targeting and retargeting of consumers generally. The most loyal consumer often becomes the most expensive consumer if there's a high transaction, low dollar payment type that occurs often, which can be the case in any concession purchase, or you buy a coffee or you buy whatever. You're getting hit over and over with payment fees from all up and down the traditional payment stack, card networks, banks, etc. So getting people into a loaded value environment, leveraging stablecoins, and a technology like Avalanche, you're down to fractions of a penny for those kinds of transactions. So you hear this kind of constantly. Coffee shops spend more on credit card fees than they do on coffee beans. That's just a fact. It's tragic in a sense. Starbucks is actually better at reducing those costs than the coffee shop on the corner because they have the capability to do this, right? So we wanted to sort of democratize access to these complex loaded value wallets, make it simple for the rights holder, make it simple for the consumer, and under the hood, we're taking care of the heavy lift.
It sounds like if I'm a fan of a team, it sounds like an absolute no-brainer to join. Mm-hmm. How's been the onboarding process, for these teams to communicate to fans, getting them to join, the learning curve? How's that process been?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, to be honest, right? They're in the business already of marketing, right? And what they get with our asset is an asset that they can market and own and benefit from year over year.
So you rely on the teams are marketing.
Yeah, they're marketing machines.
Yeah.
They're great at that. That's their strength. They can grow their own loyalty program on the Jumbotron or in a push notification to their mobile app or through a ticketing promotion email. We've done things like gate ticket pre-sale access to our most loyal fans in the program. So their fans are getting pre-sale access. We get thousands of signups when that happens, and this asset then again just becomes more valuable over the years.
Let me ask you a question about your potential market. You've got some tier one. You've got NBA teams. I mean, that's top of the pile there. In terms of costs and in terms of accessibility, what are the possibilities for sports entities that are farther down the pyramid to be able to use this kind of technology? Because they're often the ones that are most in need. I'm thinking of international federations or national federations or organizations that have lots and lots of members, but they're not monetizing them at all, really, apart from taking maybe membership fees.
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. Often the grassroots in sports is, managed by a federation and not by a professional league. We have these discussions internally all the time. We've met some of these federations across various sports. We've met minor league teams and leagues. And sort of my message to them is we want every fan that you onboard to be a net benefit to you and for you to just be able to grow with the program. So whether you have millions of members or 5,000, it should not matter. This asset should be valuable to you with every interaction, with all of the data that you generate. So we do everything from pricing to the way we build this tech stack to accommodate that philosophy. Every new user is just adding value to a network. And yeah, I mean, they could benefit from the same tech as some of these marquee rights holders that we work with today.
So in terms of the trajectory of growth, you said it's a no-brainer. I think it's a no-brainer too. I mean, how long do you think it's going to be before there's general adoption across sports of this kind of technology? Because it would seem to be something that's extremely needed.
Yeah. Whose answers you want? Mine or his? I tend to be more bullish, but I think it's probably not realistic. I think you'll see pretty widespread adoption in 3 years, and by 5 to 7 years, it'll be standard that you will be monetizing a points program inside of your network, just like Delta. It'll be a new line item of of revenue within
Yeah.
5 to 7 years.
I think that's a great answer. I mean, we're looking at national rights holders already. We're looking at it at major international events. The ones you would know about, who are all interested in this category. And then once you have enlisted users, they can use the same wallets. There's repeatability across programs in theory. These are all primitives that we want to enable. And so, I think your timeline is accurate. I think it's probably the 3 years till, everybody knows about this or everybody is participating, and the 5 to 7 when these digital products are actually eclipsing traditional legacy media products in terms of value. And that's my very aggressive, perhaps hot take, but I think it's totally possible.
Great. Well, we'll end there. Thanks very much, Dominic and John, for joining us. Really interesting. And good luck with this, because I think you've got a product that everyone is going to be getting pretty soon. Thank you for joining us on The Speakeasy. Thank you for watching The Speakeasy. And be sure that you keep watching The Speakeasy. Bye for now.